August 2011, Puerto Rico. Or should I say, Puerto Rico. I'm walking through the neighborhood where I'm staying on vacation one morning, and I notice this dog. He's skeletal, he's missing most of his fur, his skin is covered in sores, he stinks, and he won't leave my side. 24 hours ago, I didn't know this dog existed. 12 hours ago, I wasn't sure the airline would let him on the plane. 6 hours ago, I brought him home to the States. And now, sitting here late at night, watching him finally rest in his home after who knows how long, I'm realizing something. I thought I was rescuing him, but God was using him to teach me about how rescue goes in both directions. Welcome back to the Divine Palindrome podcast series. I'm Theo Kopek, and this is episode 2. Blues First Night. What rescue really means. Last week I told you about the church greeter who said 5 words that confirmed this message. God spelled backwards is dog. Today I want to tell you about blue, because blue is where the whole thing started. It was 14 years ago that August while I was on vacation in Puerto Rico. A tropical storm was bearing down on the island. I was walking past a park when I spotted a pit bull sitting on a table. Now, I already had 2 pit bulls at home in the States, so I recognized the breed immediately. But this dog was in bad shape. Skeletal, missing most of his fur, sores and infections ravaging his skin. Just sitting there on that table, like he was waiting for someone, anyone, to see him. The storm was coming. I couldn't just leave him there. So I took him in, sheltered him from the storm. That night, a tree in the front yard got uprooted by the wind. If he'd been out there. The next day, I took him to a vet, thinking I'd find a local home. But pit bulls were being banned and euthanized on the island. Nobody wanted him. I had a choice to make. The airline form required veterinary clearance. The vet looked at me and said, "I cannot check the box certifying he's healthy. I'll write a note saying he's under treatment, but if the airline won't accept it, you'll have to surrender him at the airport." I barely slept that night, wrestling with the decision, imagining leaving him behind, knowing what would happen to him if I did. At the airport the next morning, I was a mess. Stressed, distracted. I didn't even realize the porter who loaded my luggage expected payment. But his insistence on helping shepherded me past every counter to the last one, a route I wouldn't have taken on my own. The agent looked up from her screen. "Oh, a dog. I love dogs. I have 5. She pulled the paperwork from the envelope, glanced at it, slipped it back in. "Welcome. We'll put him on the plane." Relief washed over me. God's hand in the details. But then, 5 hours in cargo, I tortured myself imagining his distress. Then the pilot's voice. "Folks, I don't know how to explain this, but we'll be arriving 1 hour early." 1 hour less suffering. God's mercy in the small things. So there I am, late that night, sitting on the floor with Blue. He's resting for what might be the first time in months, and I'm watching him. And I'm realizing, from his perspective, I've just become a huge disruption. He was surviving on that table. Not thriving, but surviving. And then I came along and upended everything. New country, new smells, new sounds, cargo hold, unfamiliar house, strange dogs, and this large human who keeps touching him. From his perspective, I'm not obviously a rescuer yet. I'm just change. And change, when you're already suffering, doesn't feel like rescue. It feels like more uncertainty. And yet, he stayed by my side. He licked my hand when I reached out. He trusted me before he had any reason to. I heard God whisper something to me. This is how I rescue you. When God shows up in our lives, it doesn't always feel like rescue at first. It feels like disruption, like upheaval, like everything familiar is being stripped away. The job you lose, the relationship that ends, the dream that dies, the suffering that won't quit. From our perspective, we're thinking, God, if you're rescuing me, why does it hurt so much? But God sees what we can't see. He sees the 13 months of treatment ahead. He sees the healing that's coming. He sees the decade of companionship waiting on the other side of the pain. Blue couldn't understand that the medicated baths were healing, not harming. He couldn't grasp that the pain was temporary. He just had to trust that I was working toward his good. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him. Romans 8:28. Not that all things are good, but that God works them for good. Blue's first night wasn't comfortable, but it was the beginning of rescue. And rescue doesn't happen in a moment. It unfolds over time, through relationship, through patient presence. What I learned from Blue's first night. Rescue is disruptive. It has to be. You can't be lifted out of danger without leaving behind what was familiar, even if what was familiar was killing you. Rescue requires trust before understanding. Blue trusted me before he understood what I was doing. That's faith. Choosing relationship even when you don't comprehend the plan. Rescue goes both directions. I was rescuing Blue from suffering, but God was rescuing me from a life that didn't understand the depth of divine love. Blue became my teacher. And here's the beautiful part. The rescued becomes the rescuer. Blue, who needed rescue so desperately, spent the next 10 years teaching me about God's heart. The prodigal who comes home becomes the one who welcomes others home. The one who receives grace becomes the one who extends it. Rescue isn't just about being saved, it's about being transformed into someone who saves. That night in Puerto Rico changed everything. Not just for Blue, but for me. It became the foundation of understanding how God rescues us. God Dog, the Divine Palindrome, releases January 1st. Pre-order link is in the show notes. If Blue's story stirred something in you, there are a dozen more chapters exploring what these rescue relationships teach us about divine love. This message is for dog lovers who want deeper faith, for Christians who see God's fingerprints in everyday moments, for anyone who's been both the rescued and the rescuer. Next week, episode 3 is called The Dog Who Wouldn't Run, a Lesson in Freedom. I'm going to tell you about the moment I dropped Teddy's leash and he didn't move, and what that taught me regarding boundaries, trust, and the paradox of true freedom. If you're not already subscribed, new episodes drop every Tuesday through January 1st. God's been faithful in the writing. I'm trusting Him in the reading. Thanks for listening. I'm Theo Kopek, and I'll see you next week.